April 9th, 2012. I'm sitting in the press box, 5 rows behind the stage at Madison Square Garden. New York, New York by Sinatra's playing over the loudspeaker. I cheer alongside my sister Jacqueline as the crowd builds with nervous energy. They start to grow louder as they appear from beneath the stage. First Gary, then Jake. Louder, Susie and Patty. Louder, Stevie, until Bruce, as the boss, Bruce Springsteen, emerges on the stage. New York City, 1, 2, and then the band kicks into the opening chords of Badlands. And all the nervous energy, the stress, the anxiety of the last few months just melts away. 3 years earlier, I never imagined myself in this position. I started my first business when I was just 25 years old, just a few miles from here in Naples, Florida. I'd finally worked up the courage to pursue my entrepreneurial dream. Just one problem. Unlike many entrepreneurs, I wasn't encouraged to start my own business when I was younger. My dad had just dug our family out of entrepreneurial poverty after previous generations failed in the pharmaceutical, bar, and even bootlegging businesses. So, yes, my family's well-versed in booze and drugs. But I'm the type of person, if you tell me to sit down, I stood up. I had a hungry heart to do more. I was going to rewrite our family's history and succeed. So my now husband and I decided to continue in the family line, and we went into the wine industry. We started with a small retail store and tasting bar, but it grew to much more. When we began, we had very little capital to start. Minimal 401k, a small loan from my father-in-law, and we took some of those credit card advances you're not supposed to do. So even though we could have had better funding decisions with our first business, we were determined to succeed. Al and I worked diligently to get the store open. By day, we were studying varietals and regions. By night, we were sanding and staining the shelves of our store. The entire thing was done by hand, from shelves to website. The business was quite literally my baby. And so we really went into it with eyes wide open, and we were really dedicated to getting this thing up and running and to succeed. I believe that you can't start a fire without a spark, so call it naivete, youth, or just plain stubbornness, but whatever we had to tackle, I took it head on and really solved the challenge myself. And because, or maybe despite, of my controlling nature, the business did start to succeed. Our little store, Decanted, took off, and instead of just having approachable wines, we now moved upmarket into the collector's world. We're working with collectors worldwide, helping them invest in wines priced anywhere between $500 and $25,000 a bottle. I have no idea what a $25,000 bottle tastes like, so don't ask me, I just sold it. But then, working in multiple time zones across various continents, the burnout started to set in. I had little time for my friends anymore. I had little energy to get up in the mornings and go to the gym. I thought to myself, someday I'll look back on all this and it will seem funny. But it only got worse. And my relationships started to suffer. I barely spoke to my parents anymore because I was too busy. I hadn't seen my sisters in months. And when my husband and I did speak, it was only to argue about the business. I knew what needed to happen. I needed to sell the business. I needed to sell it now. No surrender. And so I struggled with the decision, though. I didn't know where to start. Spent more nights sleepless, instead Googling on my phone, how do I sell my business? Who will buy my business? What's my business worth? The fights with Al and I worsened until it became us or Decanted. Decanted may have been my baby, but it was not about to ruin my life. So on March 31st, I woke up, I found an M&A advisor, I signed the paperwork that day to sell my business and put the business on the market. Done. Now, he did warn me it could take a while, and we would be lucky to even find a buyer. But tougher than the rest, we signed a LOI for full price for the business just 7 days later. Boom, done. The business was out of my life. My life was a wide open road. I was no longer trapped in this business, and I had high hopes for the future. And that afternoon, I bought a ticket to see Bruce Springsteen at Madison Square Garden with my sister. So here I am, jumping, singing, screaming, having still to this day one of the best nights and best concerts of my life. And I'm completely and totally oblivious that I am going down, and I don't even know it. See, this was almost 15 years ago, before I knew anything about exit planning or mergers and acquisitions, and I was truly very, very lucky. Despite being woefully underprepared, the business had sold. The statistics show us it shouldn't happen. But the mistakes I made in the process and what I would uncover in the future could have been prevented. Now, when I think back about it, I knew I would sell someday. I mean, I was 29. I had no plans to work at Decandid the rest of my life. I knew I would sell someday in advance. I was born to run, not to stay. I just never planned for that day in the future. So the day came, May 31st, closing happened, and the initial high was everything I imagined. A big wire hit my bank account. We celebrated on the beach with a beautiful bottle of champagne. And my husband and I sat there and we reminisced about the deal, the business, everything we'd overcome. But then the questions started to creep in. What's next? The next few days were a blur of transition. Employee meetings, client and vendor transitions, training the new owner and their managers. But about 10 days into it, the buyer looks at us and he goes, "Okay, we're good." Now, we had signed a 1-year contract engagement to stay on to transition the business, and here we are 10 days into the 1 year, and you're saying, "You're good?" Well, okay. So that was a Tuesday. The day after, I woke up at my normal 6 a.m., got out of bed, and thought, why the hell am I up so early? So I went back to bed, slept like a baby till 10, got up, walked the dog, went to the gym, did some grocery shopping, cooked a nice dinner, and went to watch the sunset at the beach. The next day, I got up at 11 a.m. I walked the dog, I skipped the gym, ordered in, and went to sunset. I started to slip. First it was skipping the gym, then sunset, then sleeping well past noon. Like a river that didn't know where it was flowing, I took a wrong turn and I just kept going. Until one day, just a few weeks later, I walked out into my living room, I looked at my husband on the couch, and I thought to myself, I have no purpose or desire for life. See, what I didn't realize is I tied my role of owning Decandid to my personal identity. Everyone I knew in Naples knew me as the owner of Decandid. We were the wine people. And having to tell them about the business sale day after day and watching the disbelief cross their face, it was just too much. And then the question they'd always ask, what's next? I couldn't answer that. So instead, staying home, not facing the world, not facing my future was far easier. See, it's not just enough to run away from a business. We have to have an inspiring vision to run towards a business. Imagine pouring your heart, your soul, countless sleepless nights, years into building something, and then someday you just decide to sell it. What we all imagine to be a pinnacle moment is actually a truly lonesome day. So fast forward just a few years, and now I've overseen almost 1,100 business exits throughout my career. I spend my time as the leader of the franchise operation Exit Factor, and we focus on the business side. We focus on helping people prepare their companies for sale, achieve maximum value before they go to market. But what I've learned in my career is that there's 3 key skills every exit advisor has to have in order to make sure that our clients are personally prepared for the transition. The first is future thinking. You and your clients will all be focused on the nuts and the bolts of the business, the valuations, the financial plans, the tax saving strategies, but we all have an additional job. And that job is to get our clients to look up from the weeds and answer the question, what's next? The second is seeing beneath the surface. I'll tell you a story. So I was working with a business owner, we'll call her Patty. She had a very successful telecom business, and we'd worked together for about 2 years getting her business ready for the exit process. So here we are the day before closing. She's exiting for her goal sale price, and she calls me and she says, I am not selling to those people. I'm like, okay, Patty, what's going on? So dig in a little bit and uncover and realize that the buyer had found out that she had been using her personal cell phone number to give out to clients for customer inquiries, customer information. And so rightfully so, the buyer is worried that the customers are still going to call that number and has asked her to transition her cell phone number to the business at closing. Not a big deal. Is it an unfortunate event she's got to give up her cell phone? Yes. Is it something to kill a deal over? No. But when you dig into what was going on with Patty, she was having the realization hit her that tomorrow the business would be gone. And she was scared about the future because she had no idea what was next. The third skill we also all have to have is effective communication. So all entrepreneurs are different, but I can tell you one thing that they all have in common, and that's they do not like being told what to do. They literally hate it. It's what we've built our entire career to avoid. We have and always will want to be the drivers in our life. So as advisors, if we use communication that's focused on giving advice and telling them what to do, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Instead, try something called the Gestalt language protocol. And I know that sounds like a fancy term, but basically what Gestalt means is that instead of communicating by giving advice and telling people what to do, you share your advice through personal experience shares. In Gestalt, you replace words like you, should, and how with I, did, and why. Using a language communication skill like Gestalt can help you build deeper trust and relationships with clients in high-stress situations like the transition in a business. So like I said, it's not enough to run away from a business. We've got to have that inspiring vision to run towards. It doesn't have to be another business venture, although it can be. I've worked with clients that get inspired by charitable organizations, caring for elderly family members, returning to art, traveling, or even just being an engaged parent or grandparent. So I now see that my husband and I spent about 60 days in what I would call a deep depressive state. We were waiting on a sunny day and just finally decided to do something about it. We started talking about our future again. And although we had evaluated a lot of different options, helping people through the transition of their business really hit home for us. And soon we were back on track, up at 6 a.m., walking the dog, going to the gym, and living in our future. But every time I speak with a client first contemplating the sale of their business, I still return to that morning, well, actually afternoon. When I walked out into the living room, I saw Al on the couch, and I thought to myself, I have no purpose to live today. I can still feel that feeling in my gut. And so I always ask that client, what's next? What are you going to do the day after? Because it's not about the numbers and the plans and the transactions. We have to see the individual across the table from us and what drives them and what are their purposes, their passions in life. So let's go back to April 9th, Madison Square Garden. What I missed in the months that followed that concert was what that night was truly about. What if I had kept that pure feeling of exhilaration, that zest for life? I mean, here I am, I'm in New York City, I'm in the heart of the pulsating center of dreams. I'm surrounded by a sea of faces, each with their own story, their struggle, their triumph. The boss had sung us into a unified chorus of hope and resilience. And what I realized in that moment is to focus on the balance of life, savoring slow sips of life's most gorgeous experiences, not just chasing the rush, intoxicating rush of achievement. My family, my husband, even Bruce himself taught me that the moments in life, the ones that we remember the most and that carve who we are, can't be tallied on a balance sheet. While I had built a business, I still had to look forward to building a life. The sale of Decanted wasn't an end, but really just a gateway to a new beginning. In the end, it's not about the businesses we build or the wealth we accumulate. It's about the life we live and the love we share. It's about finding our own version of the promised land and dancing in the dark with joy and gratitude. Because in the grand concert of life, we are all the boss of our own stage, and every day is our encore. Thank you.